Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Vegan View. So today we're super excited to partner up with Country Crock to try out their new dairy-free plant butters and some recipes for you guys.
So we are going to show you 3 different ways you can incorporate their new plant butter into your recipes. We're gonna each do something a little different, and these butters taste exactly like regular dairy butter, so you're not going to miss anything out by being more plant-based.
I am about to share one of the best grilled cheese recipes you'll ever make. You're gonna need some sourdough, some tomatoes, some vegan cheese. I'm using a smoked Gouda, some vegan pesto. I'm using the one from Trader Joe's, and then this Country Crock Plant Butter with almond oil, and you're ready to go. So you're just going to make a grilled cheese like you probably already know how, and take some of the plant butter, spread it on either side of the sourdough. And I decided to use the almond oil butter because it has a nice hint of almond, but also has a delicious butter taste, and I thought it would just pair really well with the flavors in this recipe. So then you're going to scoop on some of the pesto, and I like a pretty generous amount, so I like to spread it in pretty thick. It also kind of makes the bread a little bit more moist, which I like, and then crispy on the outside, you know the drill. And then you're gonna cut up the tomatoes and put on your cheese. So I used 2 slices of vegan cheese. You could even use more if you wanted to get real crazy and make it cheesier, but I just like to break them up and stack them up like so. And then you're ready to put it on the pan. I know, it's revolutionary. And hardest part probably is putting the grilled cheese together and not making a mess, but we did it. So then you're just going to place it into the pan, and the trick to the perfect grilled cheese, put a lid on it. Especially with vegan cheese, you're gonna want that moisture in there to help melt it. This is a game changer. So put it in there for about 3 minutes, take the lid off, flip it over, and then I like to kind of press it down with a spatula, and this also just kind of helps the cheese melt. It just kind of binds everything together, and then you're gonna wanna put the lid back on again. And if you want it to be really melty, then you'll wanna put the flame on a lower heat. I did on medium. I would probably do a lower flame level next time and put it on for longer, but still one of the best grilled cheese sandwiches I've ever made in my life. I really liked the almond oil plant butter with the flavors of this. It was so delicious. You guys are gonna love it, and that's it.
Hi guys, it's Nisha. So there are a lot of questions in our Facebook group about how to cook mushrooms, and I thought I would show you how to cook them with Country Crock's new plant butter with olive oil, and it's pretty simple to learn how to cook these fun guys. Thanks for listening to that pun. Now if you haven't clicked out because of that, let's get into it. So the thing is that I'm using oyster mushrooms. I find these the easiest to cook with. They are just a little more resilient than like baby portobellas or button mushrooms, and they really hold on to flavor. I think these are the mushrooms to feed a mushroom hater. First, rinsed off these mushrooms, and I make sure to pat them dry really well. You want them to be dry. And I'll link a video below about how to clean oyster mushrooms just in case. So the first thing I do is I separate and pull apart the oyster mushrooms. I like to kind of peel it like they're string cheese. This is actually extremely fun. Have a ball while you're doing this. It is a fun activity, and they peel apart really easily. You can use a knife if you kind of want to get more precise, but as you can see, I didn't even pick mine up. But you just want to separate out the clump. I feel like they're much easier to utilize when you don't cook them all together, so that's why I really like separating and shredding mine. But if you want to cut yours up, if you want to grill it whole, it is up to you. I just really like this texture. I feel like it goes better on pastas and sandwiches or whatever you want to put this on because it's delicious. As I said, I will be using the Country Crock Plant Butter with olive oil. I thought the olive oil would go really nice with this recipe. Olive oil or butter is a great base for frying up mushrooms, and this product has both in one. It's made out of olive oil, but it's exactly like butter. I'm using 1.5 teaspoons of the Country Crock. You can see there's a little guide on the butter, so it's nice and easy to measure. Then I'm going to add my little pat of butter into a pan that has been on very low heat. You do not want to burn your butter or burn your garlic or any of these ingredients because you're gonna have to start all over again, and that would be sad. Who wants to do that? So be very careful with not turning the heat up too high. I know it gets exciting, but this is neither the time nor the place for that, y'all. Then I'm adding about 2 cloves of diced garlic. You know how I feel about that. I don't think you should listen to me. I think you should listen to your heart with how much garlic you're going to be using. And I think it's really important to mention, do not press your garlic. I think you should definitely do a nice chunky dice, because when you press garlic, it releases so many of the juices and it tends to burn off a little faster, and you want that really bright flavor of garlic rather than a pressed flavor of garlic, if that makes sense. But it cooks a lot more evenly, and you get a much better texture with the butter and the oyster mushrooms combining in the end. Now you're going to stir around the butter and the garlic mixture just until the garlic starts to brown. You do not want it to burn or get too golden brown, because they'll get dry and not tasty. And then I'm going to add my oyster mushrooms. Now, you just want to make sure that each mushroom is touching the pan, and you just want to give them enough space, y'all. Ignore that I just dropped some of the mushrooms on the side. I know I did it. Nobody's perfect. I gotta work it again and again. So make sure the mushrooms each have their space to roast and toast in the plant butter and garlic sauté. Once all your mushrooms are settled, then I add about a pinch of salt. This whole recipe uses only about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, so don't use too much. Really just use only a pinch, and this, you want to add it right now to just draw out the excess moisture. That'll keep your mushrooms from getting too rubbery. And then this is the key for making it taste like fancy restaurant mushrooms. I add just a little bit of white wine. This is only a tablespoon of white wine. I like a drier, less sweet white wine. How many times have I just said white wine? And you just want enough to barely cover the bottom of the pan. Remember, you don't want your mushrooms to boil. You want to make sure that the sugars in the white wine are incorporated into the mushrooms while burning off the excess alcohol. And guys, this step, so good. I mean, you can not do it, but it just really adds so much flippin' flavor. And you can check out a list of vegan white wines on barnivore.com. I'll link that down below. Now, here's the key. Do not touch the mushrooms. I know, it's really tempting. You want to go in, you want to mixy mix, but no, do not touch them. Yeah, that's right, don't touch them. And just let them do their thing on low to medium heat. And that is how you're going to get that crispy, crunchy, delicious crust on the bottom. When your mushrooms look like this and they have that nice golden brown crust on the bottom, they are ready to flip over. I like to use this pair of mini tongs to flip them over. I just feel like it's more precise, and I really wanted that perfect sear on both sides, because that's flavor. That golden, delicious, buttery brown is so flavorful and crispy and yummy and very key. So I do think you should flip them over with a tong if you have them. And then once you're done flipping, you can add another little pinch of salt and then just wait. Don't move them again. And your mushrooms are ready when the other side has that same brown golden color. Then you can mix them all up, move them around as much as you want because they're done. And I really like to serve these on some pasta. I have these really cute bow tie pastas I thought would look nice with the brown mushrooms with the little bits of pink and orange. And they taste so good in a red sauce. They taste great on their own. Or like I did in this dish, I just tossed the bow tie pasta with more of the Country Crock butter and a little bit of salt. So savory and pretty, and it'll make you a mushroom lover for sure. These mushrooms also go really good in a tofu scramble or on like a BLT instead of bacon. I've put these mushrooms on top and wowie zowie, so good. So I hope this recipe showed you one way of making some amazing mushrooms.
Hey guys, it's Nicole. So I'm going to be making a lemon and blueberry cake, and for this I'm just going to take 2 sticks of Country Crock Plant Butter, and the very first step in making this cake is just to set them out on the counter so that they can come to room temperature. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and sift my flour, and yes, I have a very small flour sifter, and that's because this is actually a powdered sugar sifter, but you know, use what you have when you're in the kitchen. I also wanted to show you how to properly measure flour. So a lot of times people will firmly pack the flour into the mixing cup like this, like how you would with brown sugar. And that's actually going to make it to where you get way too much flour in the cake and you'll have a really dry, dense cake. So just kind of lightly scoop it, tap off the excess, and then sift that into a mixing bowl. Sifting it creates a really nice texture, but it also makes sure that you don't get any weird, hard clumps of flour in your final cake, because trust me, no one's going to want to bite into that. Then I'm going to add some almond flour, and this just adds a really nice texture to the overall cake. And I'm also going to add some baking powder and some baking soda. Then I just add a little bit of salt and whisk all the dry ingredients together, and I'm just going to set that aside. Next, I'm going to make some vegan buttermilk just by combining some apple cider vinegar with some almond milk or soy milk, and I'm also going to set that aside. Then, because this is a blueberry cake, I'm just going to measure out my blueberries and I'm going to lightly coat them in some flour. This is going to help them not stick together in the cake, and it will also kind of thicken the juices so that you get a really great blueberry bite when you bite into the cake. And finally, I'm going to prepare the vegan egg replacer, and for this, I'm just going to take some egg replacer and mix it with water. It'll be kind of runny when you first mix it together, and then as it sits for 5 or 10 minutes, it will thicken into kind of a gelatinous mixture, and that will help bind all of the ingredients together. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my Country Crock butter, and make sure you hold on to the actual wrapper because we're going to use that later on. So I just add my softened butter to a bowl along with some sugar, and I'm going to beat this until it's light and fluffy. Now I'm using coconut sugar here, but actually I've tested this recipe since filming this, and it's way better in my opinion with regular white sugar. I think it adds a nice flavor because it really lets the blueberry and the lemon shine, but use whatever kind of sugar you like. I just recommend using regular granulated sugar if that's what you have. Once that's nice and fluffy, I add the egg replacer, which is thickened, and then I'll alternate the wet and dry ingredients until everything is well combined. And then I also add my blueberries, lots of lemon zest, which adds a really beautiful bright lemon flavor. And because I forgot to add my vanilla extract with the wet ingredients, I just make sure to do that because it's super important. And then I'll fold all of that together. Then back to the Country Crock butter paper wrappers. I'm just going to actually use that to help grease my nonstick pans. And this will ensure that we get a really nice thin coating of the vegan butter on the outside of the pan, and that way we won't have any sticking. I also like to take a spoonful of flour and kind of tap it all around so that you have a nice layer. And again, this will prevent sticking. And this makes 2 cake rounds, which can either be made into a layer cake, like a really nice tall layer cake, or what I will do is actually bake both of them and then I'll let them cool. I'll freeze one so I have it on hand when I need a quick dessert, and then I'll go ahead and serve the other one. Now you can serve this warm with ice cream and some fresh blueberries on top, which is my absolute favorite way to have it. You could also use a buttercream frosting using your Country Crock butter, but what I'm doing today is I'm making a blueberry whipped cream. I'm just taking some coconut whipped cream and I'm tossing it or folding it with some store-bought blueberry jam. I like to top it with blueberries, some sliced almonds, and lots of fresh lemon zest. I love decorating a cake with what's on the inside, so it kind of lets people know, like, this is a lemon and blueberry cake. You see it right away, it looks beautiful, and I always think that a little sprig of mint is a really nice touch on a dessert as well. This is a really spongy and flavorful cake, super versatile. I'm really excited for you to try it, and all of the measurements and details are in the description box below. I hope you guys liked seeing these recipes. We wanted to point out too that one of the really cool things about these particular dairy-free butters is that they actually require 55% less emissions than making regular dairy butter. So it's a way better for the environment, and it's just good to know that what you're buying and using on a daily basis is a lot better for the environment. I think that it's just one of those things where wherever you can make a small change here or there and it doesn't really affect you, like it tastes the same, it works the same in recipes, and it's roughly the same cost, like why not make the switch? When companies like Country Crock are making it that easy for you, you have no excuses, you know?
And another thing I love about these butters is that they can be found in most grocery stores, which is awesome, especially for those people in your life who may be wanting to reduce their carbon footprint and be a little bit more mindful of the foods that they eat, but they're not quite ready to completely change their lifestyle. This is such an easy switch.
And I love that the butter can be substituted one for one, because that's such a hard thing with vegan baking. Sometimes you have to do little math, but this makes it so easy. So Country Crock is doing something great by including conscious consumerism in a product that is super easy for the average person to use.
And there's different options too, like the olive oil, the avocado oil, the almond oil. There's so many different, and they're not like weird ingredients. Like we all know what olive oil is, you know? So I like that they're making it mainstream.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I grew up eating Country Crock butter. So it's like so cool that a brand that I know and like I have nostalgic feelings about is making a plant-based change.
Yeah.
So it's super cool.
Super with it. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We want to know if you guys have tried Country Crock Butter in the comments below, and if so, how do you use it? Let us know. Share your recipes with us. And if you check out the description box below, you'll find a link to our Facebook group, as well as our individual channels and our Vegan View Instagram account. We would love to have you following along there. And we will see you guys in a video next week. Bye.